Hey everyone, welcome to Promethean Tides on the 21st of May, 2022. I am General, and hello Breaker.
Oh, hello, General Chief. Oh,
I'm already offended.
everything, everywhere, all at the once. Oh,
Did you finally get around to seeing that movie?
it's still not available on Amazon, unfortunately. But when I do, I'll definitely will because I've heard several people like critically praise the movie, including you. So,
Yeah, absolutely genius film. I saw it like maybe a month ago. It was like when it first came into theaters, and uh, besides of course Fight Club, best movie I think I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of movies. It even beats out like the it beats out all the other movies. Yeah. I also saw Doctor Strange, and for a Marvel movie, Marvel movies are usually kind of shit, but that one wasn't bad.
the worst thing about that was freaking America Chavez and her magic star powers.
That's true, but she can make portals, so that makes her pretty powerful. I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. And then when you take into consideration that character only exists as like a progressive like cult of rainbow people, fu and middle finger to comic book aficionados. There you go. Don't forget about her lesbian moms on the lesbian planet of all lesbians, and somehow they managed to reproduce. I don't know. You're the biologist. You figure that one out.
Well, you see, Breaker, the the one of them has a penis. They didn't show their genitals. Okay, everyone has breasts on that planet, but one of them has a penis. It's simple. I explained it.
You know what? I wouldn't be adverse to the idea of an all feminine hermaphrodite world, but somehow I'm not entirely sure that that's what they're going for. But biologically speaking, that's the only way it makes sense. I think you're right.
Honestly, you know what? If everyone just like looked like a girl and had boobs, I think the world would be a more beautiful place.
I think about that sometimes because in a hermaphroditically reproducing species of that level of intelligence, like comparable to human intelligence, wouldn't their culture and their language be really radically different from anything that we know essentially? Like, wouldn't all their motivation stem from different origins than what we could even comprehend?
Um, I mean, if you think about it, maybe they lived through a time of famine where there like wasn't a lot of food available. So, both sexes would have to develop breasts in order to feed the baby because they would have to share the responsibility or whatever. Maybe that's what happened.
Hmm.
Well,
Well,
anyway,
technically, humans kind of have like a vestigial version of that because men have nipples. Men only have nipples because women need them.
yeah, the nipples develop prior to the sexual differentiation. And so because it occurs in that order, men have nipples as well, and they're completely useless. But you would look kind of weird if you had no nipples. So I guess there's that. Uh,
Unless it was a non-mammalian species.
yeah, it is. It is just mammals that have mammary glands. That's true. But anyway, so we had a few interesting pieces in the news. So I guess first thing is that apparently BLM has spent some money rather carelessly, um, and perhaps even worse than carelessly, potentially fraudulently. So that was a thing. I don't personally care that much because from my perspective, it's like if you're dumb enough to actually give money to BLM in the first place, then don't be surprised if it doesn't go towards anything useful. Like that's just, I mean, that should be obvious. So I mean, I didn't give any money to them, so it doesn't affect me. I don't really care. But That is something that was brought up in the news this week.
Uh, Shocking that the like neo-Marxist in its origins organization known as Black Lives Matter was just a bunch of shysters and grifters the entire time looking to make a quick buck. I'm personally shocked and appalled. I did not see this coming. Like, how could this have happened?
How could the self-titled Marxist group not engage in Marxist behavior? I mean, clearly they're not trying to help the workers seize the means of production. I don't understand what's going on. It's very confusing. My God.
Well, if we use the historical examples of Marxism, this actually falls perfectly in line because the elite Marxists just become rich fat cats and everyone else eats cake. You see it in Cuba, the Soviet Union, Mao's China. I mean, actually, if anything, this is perfectly in line with historical examples of Marxism.
Yeah, it's just them practicing peak Marxism. They're doing it great. Uh, I actually I got into an argument earlier this week with a couple communists, and I was just trying to tell them that I thought that Nazi Germany was a socialist state. Like it's clearly socialist. Nazi is short for National Socialist. And if you look up the definition of socialism in both the Merriam-Webster's dictionary and the Oxford English dictionary, the definition of socialism is just the government owning the means of production. And as far as my knowledge takes me, Nazi Germany was very much a place where the government owned a lot of means of production, both directly and indirectly. It was clearly a socialist state, but these communists, they didn't want to admit that because it makes socialism sound bad. So they can't just, agree to something like that. Very interesting argument.
Well, anything involving 1940s mustache man is just de facto evil. So if they think something is good like socialism, then in that Venn diagram, it must necessarily not overlap with 1940s mustache man. That's just how the logic works. Now, that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of logical sense, actually, but this is like left logic, not actual logic.
No, it makes total sense. You see, you have good thing, and then you have bad man. Bad man cannot be connected to good thing. It just okay. It's simple.
Very Orwellian, actually. It's like socialism double plus good, mustache man ungood.
Yeah. I mean, basically. I tried pointing out to them that obviously, Nazi Germany was not a communist socialist state. Like you can have different forms of socialism. You can have non-communist socialism. Like you could totally do that. But I don't think that they see it that way. I think that they see socialism as the Marxist prequel to the fully automated luxury gay-space communism that they would like to achieve. And so socialism has to be part of that line, and no one else is allowed to have it, I guess.
I was reading some Slavoj Žižek recently, the supreme object of ideology, and he was talking about money in his definition is kind of like this synthetic, artificial convention that people just agree upon, but it in and of itself is this eternal and unchanging thing, and you merely participate in the essential form of money. It's pretty convoluted. If anyone wants to read it anytime, it's a slog.
The essential form of money. Money represents theoretical value that allows you to more efficiently barter items because you don't have to specifically trade. Let's say that I want a shoe, and you have let's say I have a shoe. No, okay. Let's say that I have a shoe and you want a shoe. Okay, all right. This is maybe not the best metaphor. The point is that money is it's a more efficient way of bargaining because it's possible that the person that you're trying to trade with doesn't want what you have to trade, and so instead of like having to trade with another guy so that you can trade with the first guy, it's more efficient to just give him money so that he can go get the fucking thing himself. That is all money is.
Yeah, I think that's why he likens the concept of money to like a platonic form, because money is like this ultimate blank space where you can insert like any tangible thing of value into that blank space and say, my shoe costs, I don't know, $10.
True, true. Although
Yeah.
money cannot buy all things. It can buy a lot, but there are some things that cannot be purchased with cash. So,
Like your immortal soul.
well, yeah, like that. I was gonna say, like, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are both just basically infinitely wealthy. But when it comes to public influence, Elon Musk clearly has more, and like that's not a thing that Jeff Bezos can just purchase. I'm sure that if he could, he would, but it's very difficult for him to be popular amongst the masses because he's just unlikable.
Mm, I can see your point on that.
Uh, okay, so yeah, apparently BLM not good with money, potentially fraudulent. I guess we'll find out what happens with that. Uh, Also, the Ministry of Truth, also known as the Department of Disinformation, is or no, it's actually called the Disinformation Governance Board. It has been put on indefinite hold, uh, and the lovely show tune singer Nina Jankowicz has stepped down. Of course, the cause of this is actually disinformation. You see, Breaker, the left was throwing so much disinformation at this disinformation board that they couldn't stand this disinformation, and they had to shut down their disinformation because of too much disinformation. So, yeah, I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That's like the original radio telescope, if you remember that. Like they made this telescope to find radiation and radiating bodies in the universe. But when they turned it on, it was just this nonstop wash of white noise. And that's when they realized that everything was producing radiation in a constant state of decay.
No, I didn't. I didn't know that. That's an interesting little story.
Our society is so permeated with disinformation on every level that the second the disinformation governance board came online, it was just overloaded and exploded.
Well, okay, hold on, Breaker. You see, the Earth is radioactive. It does radiate. It has uranium, and also it releases a lot of infrared radiation. But compared to the sun, the Earth is basically like a completely dead rock. Because the sun just radiates a whole bunch more. So I think that really what's going on is that the left is like the Earth, right? Like it has a little bit of disinformation, but it's mostly truthful. Whereas the right, it's this shining fusion bomb of disinformation, and so they just couldn't handle how much just sheer disinformation is constantly coming out of the right and never out of the left. So they had to shut it down. It's really quite a sad story if you think about it.
It's like a white hot dynamo of constant lies and deceptions, and everyone on the right is constantly trying to destroy the left at all angles, and they just hate the left so much that they just want them to die because they're devoid of any human sympathy or compassion. I know this is true because the man with the beard on the internet told me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing is that I don't know if I've ever heard anything truthful coming out of the right. I mean, I'll tell you what, when you want to talk about people that are devoid of principles, that is definitely the right to a T.
Of course, yeah. Now you're starting to understand. You'll fit right in with the post disinformation paradigm that we're quickly entering.
Yeah, we live in a fun world. And then uh, apparently it's a bit unclear if Elon Musk is actually going to be purchasing Twitter. Uh, I think that they came out and they said that only 5% of accounts are bots. And then I think Elon Musk, he was talking to some people or giving a talk, and he said only 5% of the accounts on Twitter are bots. Does anyone feel that this is true? Like, is this anyone's experience? Uh, and I think that either he or someone else said that it's more likely that it's more like 20% of all accounts are bots. Uh, so I guess that this could be a move for to try to get Twitter at a cheaper price than $54.20. Perhaps Elon could bring it down to more like $44.20. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's just the continued story of Elon Musk and Twitter. Of course, there have been a lot of news outlets that are trying to make everyone care all of a sudden, even though they don't, about him allegedly doing something inappropriate with a flight attendant back in 2016. I don't know the full details of the story, mostly because I don't care, and I wish the news would stop trying to make me care.
You see, the thing, what Elon did that was so horrible was, unbeknownst to us, he's actually already invented time travel. And what he did with the 2016 flight attendant, you see, he went back in time and he whispered very softly in her ear on the plane, and he said, "Did you know that Twitter's 5% bot number was drawn from a 100 account sample size?" Therefore violating his NDA and causing a whole bunch of problems, which Twitter is now very angry at.
Oh, fuck, that would violate his NDA. I didn't even think about that. Oh, rough news for Elon.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the worst part of that whole story I just told, obviously. But yeah, they literally, that 5% of Twitter is bots number was literally, the sample size was 100 accounts. And out of those 5 accounts, 5 were bots. Now, if you like stretch that out, if that's the example we're being given by Twitter officially, according to Elon Musk, and you know it's official because they're pissed off at him and suing him over violating the NDA, just stretch that number out to the millions upon millions of accounts on Twitter, and that number becomes a lot fucking bigger.
Well, so I think that they might have, if I remember correctly, I could be incorrect about this, but they did a 100 user sample size, but they did it multiple times, so they would have like many baskets of 100 users each. Now, my only question is, was there any selection parameter when it came to finding these users, right? Because let's say that I do a search and I get 100 random users, and they are random, totally random, but my search parameter excludes people with less than 2 followers. Well, in that case, I'm going to wind up with significantly less bots. If I just did a completely pure search and had no selection parameters, maybe that number would tick up. So I'm not actually sure the methodology that Twitter used to do these 100 user baskets. I don't know.
Good point. I will tell you one thing that I do know from personal experience on Twitter is that I've noticed an uptick over the past, like, let's say 3 or 4 years. I've noticed a severe uptick in the amount of annoying spam bot accounts in my frickin' DMs, just sending me like random crap messages. Like, hey, some are just written in Korean and Chinese and Japanese, and I have no idea what that is. Others are like, the account has an Arabic name, but then it puts an ad for like hot single girls in your area. That's like the classic spam email. bullshit bought things like, oh, not this again for the 1,000th time. Go away.
Okay, now here's the thing. I have never clicked on the hot single girls in your area ads.
But, nor should you.
Okay, but what if, Breaker, what if you click on them and it actually takes you to a hot single girl? You know, I've never tried it, so maybe it's legit. You know, I don't know. I can't know until I click on one of those.
Maybe that's the secret of finding hot single girls. Maybe the hot single girls are so smart that they like flood all of the emails and Twitter accounts with like, hey, hot single girls in your area, to the point where no one trusts them anymore. So they never click on them. So they get to keep all their single girl hotness to themselves because no one actually clicks on them.
Ah, they're fucking hoarding their single hotness. God damn it.
It's like a meta-modernist ironic ploy to like stop themselves from being like horned on the market, I guess. well, now they have OnlyFans, so I don't know how valid my theory would be, but I'm sticking to it, damn it.
Yeah, the issue with the OnlyFans is that they may be hot, but they're seldom single and they're rarely in your area. So, it's not quite the same.
Well, you see, like, according to the mighty Christian, there's something known as the infinitely high boyfriend factor.
Oh.
So basically, if you ask any of these single girls, they will say that they have a boyfriend just to get rid of your autistic ass.
Wait, are you telling me that women are rejecting Christian? Come on, he has so much to offer. He's famous.
The infinitely high boyfriend factor.
Right, yeah. So
that's how that works.
That poor guy, man. I sort of kind of feel for him, maybe, but not really. Because he is clearly autistic, and like that's bad. But also, he is a raging narcissist. So in case anyone doesn't know who Chris Chan is, this is a legend on the internet, and just give him a Google search. He's probably one of the most interesting people to exist, and places like 4chan used to absolutely love him, although nowadays 4chan is not quite what it used to be.
Christian, the most interesting man in the world.
I would love to fucking. I would love to grab a beer with that guy. Like, I think it would be it wouldn't be pleasant, I don't think, but it would be very interesting.
There's videos of people hanging out and having casual conversations with him, and he's just like, he's literally talking to his Sonichus and Rosechus and imaginary Pokemons and Digimons and fictional characters that only he could see because he is on the margin of the dimensional merge. So, yeah, that's just how he sounds normally when talking with actual people. He'll just start randomly talking to Rosechew and Sonichu. It's like, keep up the good work, Rosechew. And you're like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, it would be entertaining if nothing else. I mean, most of the time he doesn't seem dangerous unless you, like, beat him in a game of Pokemon cards and then he'll hit you with the pepper spray.
Well, or unless you happen to be his mother. In that case, you may be in grave danger.
Allegedly, that's not what the trial yet. So,
Right. I just said you may be in grave danger. I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Possibility. We've yet to find out conclusive proof as to that, but yeah.
Right. Do you know if he still carries around that that amulet that he made, the fucking Sonic amulet?
I don't think they allow him to have that wherever he is now, so probably not.
Oh, yeah, that's probably for the best. Actually, no, the amulet, it wasn't Sonic, it was the yellow one, wasn't it?
It was Sonichu. Do you know nothing of Christian lore?
I don't know the Sonic characters, but like the little amulet that he made, that he like made into a necklace?
Yeah, Sonichu.
Okay.
Sonic and Pikachu combined, basically.
Oh, okay, right. I get it. So it's just like a little yellow Sonic guy.
Yeah. There you go.
Uh, Speaking of which, did you know? And I found this out recently. So I assumed that all of the Sonic the Hedgehog characters were actually just hedgehogs, but um, the red one, Knuckles, he is an echidna.
Yeah. So he's a memetreme, and the rest of them are mammals, I think, which is even more peculiar.
That's true. So actually, Knuckles, he has a cloaca. That's what he has. He shits and pisses and comes out of the exact same hole.
Ugh.
Little
Yeah. Don't tell that to the furry community because they're really prone to wishful thinking on what Knuckles may or may not have between his legs. So,
Jesus Christ, that's degenerate.
generous. But anyway, the new Sonic 2 movie that I watched. Did you see the Sonic 2 movie?
I haven't. I only saw the first movie like a couple months ago, just because it was on. And I did not enjoy it that much. It was just like it was like every other movie that exists, like completely formulaic. You could predict the plot from just the beginning of the movie. Just boring. I did not enjoy it whatsoever, and I have no interest in watching the second one. But maybe the second one's better. How was it?
Yeah, I could understand that criticism. And the second one, if that's your criticism of the first one, it's not much has changed. You do get to see more of Jim Carrey's portrayal of Dr. Robotnik, which is the most funny and interesting part of the movie, in my opinion. But aside from that, like all the criticisms you gave of the first one, like formulaic, predictable plot, yes, it's basically similar.
I actually isn't isn't this going to be Jim Carrey's last performance? It says Dr. Robotnik in Sonic 2. That's where he's going to end his career. I guess that's the high note, and he's walking away. He's like, you know what? I'll quit while I'm ahead. This is probably one of the greatest things I'm going to do in my career as an actor. So this is the one I'll leave on.
What's the source on this? Is this like a TMZ thing or something?
No, like apparently he's retiring. I don't know. I heard that. I could be wrong.
Jim Carrey is in a constant state of retiring and coming back, retiring. Like, you can't really trust what he says anymore because he's kind of weird in more ways than one, and not funny, happy, clap clap. You're laughing with him. Weird, but just weird in general in many ways.
Yeah, I think my favorite movie that he was in was not Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I didn't like that movie. I'm sorry to anyone who does. I know that a lot of people love it. I didn't like it. I liked him in the Pet Detective movies. Those were fun.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. What's the matter, Phrase? I'll raise a stink. But he's talking with his ass.
I guess he was the primordial PETA vegan.
Weirdly enough. And you know what? His portrayal of that type of person is like, it's the perfect hyperbolic jesting of the immortal freaking vegan archetype, to where he makes them look as ridiculous as they really are once you start talking to them. Now Vegan Gaines is going to watch this, and Vegan Gaines is going to be like, I bet you're fat. Ugh, why don't you fight me in real life? We'll do an arm wrestling competition.
I think that I think a lot of vegans actually think that they are Ace Ventura, and they're like, "Yo, I fucking watched that movie when I was a kid. I understand that I don't want to eat any animals, so I am now embodying that character played by Jim Carrey." I don't know. I got into an interesting discussion with some I guess utilitarian vegans this last week as well. A really, really interesting discussion. So of course a utilitarian is someone who believes that they want to maximize well-being for the most number of people. They I guess this particular group of people, it was a group, it wasn't just one crazy guy, it was like four of them. they also believed not just in maximizing well-being, but also in not violating anyone's rights ever. And they were talking about how you should be a vegan, and I told them if everyone in the entire world stopped eating chickens tomorrow, then it would be a genocide of all of the domesticated chickens, because no one's going to want to take care of billions of them anymore. And in addition to that, it's not like they can return to nature. They've been far too domesticated. They would just they can't survive out in the wild, so that would be a genocide of the chickens. And the guy that I was talking to, he said, yeah, absolutely, that sounds like a good idea, because it would eliminate their pain and suffering. And I hear this, and I go, well, the thing about a lot of animals just in the wild is that they get eaten, like predators eat animals. So the fact that humans eat animals is really not that different than a predator eating an animal. If anything, actually, humans can kill them in a more humane way than chewing them to death. So maybe this is an improvement. I mean, what would you want to do? Would you want to just euthanize all of the predators that exist out there in the environment, so that nothing ever gets eaten again? And the guy, I swear to God, he goes, "Yeah, I think that is something that we should do." I mean, Breaker, what the fuck do you think about that?
I think you tried to use the classic Papa JF strategy of the confused moral tie, and that by saying to them, hey, if we stop eating these chickens and therefore release all these domesticated chickens, more would have died, and they could very well go extinct entirely than they otherwise would have if we kept eating certain numbers of them. And that's one way to go about that, but then I think the vegans are adapting. They're necessarily becoming more extreme, because usually vegans are the type of people with little to no principles, because they're usually left-wing. Shocking, I know. Left-wingers and lack of principles. And these days, I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. Like, how could that be the case?
I mean, it's pretty extreme to say, yes, I'm okay with the genocide of the chickens, and yes, we should also genocide all of the natural predators that might ever eat anything. I mean, of course, that would. I said to them, I said, look, I remember this study that was done in the Chesapeake Bay, where basically starfish, they come along and they eat mollusks, like clams and mussels and stuff. And I think it was due to pollution. The starfish basically died out, but the clams and the mussels remained. Now, without the pressure of predation in the environment, actually, a lot of the mussel species died out, because a lot of these mussel species were like slightly more inefficient when it comes to gaining nutrients, but more efficient when it comes to dealing with predators. And so there was a lot of biodiversity. And when the starfish exited the scene, actually a lot of mussels were no longer able to compete, because that was no longer a thing that was selected for, and you actually saw a loss in biodiversity of the clams and mussels also in that same ecosystem. So actually, predation makes for a greater amount of biodiversity in a natural ecosystem. And then the guy said, "I don't give a fuck about biodiversity." Well, okay, all right. I mean, I guess you don't have to. I mean, that makes ecosystems a hell of a lot less stable. But I guess that's not a thing that we have to care about, because I guess the one thing that one should ever care about is well-being, which should tell you what I feel about utilitarianism, but so I told them I disagree with you guys. I think that my principles are on a different continent to where your guys' principles are. Because my stance is that it's like it's important to say reproduce yourself, right? Like you should have kids. They said, no, I will never have kids. There's too many humans. Of course, they're antinatalist. Why wouldn't they be? Um, and they go, I don't want to have kids. And I told them, I said, hey, you know what? I think that's great. I think it's really fantastic that you are actively deciding to remove yourself from the gene pool because that leaves more room for me. You are choosing to quit the game of evolution so that I can more easily win it. Thank you for your contribution. Uh, of course, I also told them, you know, if if you actually wanted your well-being and never violate rights ideas to actually continue into the future, you probably should reproduce. Otherwise, your genes and your ideas will die out. But they didn't have a response for that one, really. But there are some fucking crazy people out there. I mean, my God. And it wasn't just one guy. This was like 4 people.
Oh, dang. What can we ever do about this type of stuff? You know, I was thinking about that recently, and I think type of people like extreme ideologues like this that are more often than not to be found on the left wing these days. There is a right wing version of this, but it takes more like natural law and human nature into account when devising top-down ideologies such as this. The left just starts with ideology first that is not merely top-down, but it exists in this separate, rarefied realm of pure, essential ideas that when they pull on them and bring them back down to earth, they don't have any like natural, organically grown, bottom-up meeting point for that to coexist with. So they're just like, destroy all predators everywhere, and this is a good idea. Not even realizing or even trying to consider the consequences that could potentially have, as you just laid out. So, yeah, this is just hyper-Platonic, like deranged Platonist leftism.
Well, right. That's the thing. So let's say that they did have just a perfect argument, and it was a complete circle of truth, and that I couldn't get around it because it was just so well fortified, so well thought out, just brilliant thinking, right? I would still, even if I wasn't able to like argue against it, I would still be like, you know, I'm not sure that I trust it, because ultimately that's a human concept. Humans are fallible. Humans are not God. So our thoughts are also fallible, and our thoughts are not godly. So even if it's a really good idea, that doesn't actually mean that it is correct or that it matches up to reality whatsoever. This is a phenomenon, I think, that I agree with you. This seems to happen more with the left, whereas, if anything, the right seems to have more of a bottom-up, I don't necessarily know anything, I'm not necessarily right about anything, I just kind of have to trust the world and just hope that, you know, things work out, essentially.
Yeah, because on the right, there's usually more of a consideration of human nature, which we've talked about before is ultimately flawed. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a religious right-wing person to think this way. Like, you're an atheist, I'm an atheist, like, we're both atheists, but we can still comprehend this type of thinking where human knowledge isn't perfect.
Yeah, if anything, I think that history shows us that it has always been flawed. Like I struggle to think of anything that humans have thought of that is actually 100% true. Like you would bring up, even when it comes to our most pristine of ideas, logic and mathematics, even that is incomplete. So, have humans ever thought of anything that is actually completely true? I'm not sure that they have.
I would even go a step further to say, and like put an even finer point on it. If you could actually access a real perfect godly idea, The second you tried to pull it into the human sphere, all sorts of crap would start to go wrong. Like, let's say the vegans destroy all predators, only herbivores, and everything lives in peace, kumbaya, forever and ever. Let's say that, for the sake of argument, that is a perfect, godly idea that would work in some rarefied, abstract domain where only perfect ideas exist. Once you pull it into this imperfect, flawed, competitive, tooth and claw world, it no longer applies in this context, even though it may apply in some other fanciful, fictional context outside of this reality.
Yeah. It works in heaven, but it cannot work on Earth.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So, in short, fucking hell, I hate utilitarians. I think that I was thinking a little bit about this. I think that in the same way that, say, a communist is kind of the opposite of, say, like an anarcho-capitalist. Or actually, you know what? It's more like a Maoist is the opposite of an anarcho-capitalist. I think that a utilitarian is the opposite of, say, like a Darwinist. Like I think that those are opposites.
Yeah, because utilitarianism is dealing with like the classic trolley problem in this perfectly discrete scenario where you must kill one person or 5 people knowing nothing else in this mathematically clean, abstract, pure white background scenario of the little meme of the trolley puller guy. There is a logical answer to that. Whereas in the real world, all sorts of biases and bottom-up emergent properties are going to color your perception, even if you did find yourself in a similar situation with real trolleys and real humans tied to tracks. If you see, like, the one human is like looks like Quasimodo, and the 5 women are like super hot beach babes, you know, did you make that because it was a logical decision to kill the one guy, or did you just like think Quasimodo was an ugly motherfucker? And if you had 5 Quasimodos and 1 hot babe, you're probably going to kill the 5 Quasimodos.
Yeah,
I
don't give a shit about those Quasimodos. You could have 100 of them.
Yeah, that's an extreme example, but it's much more complicated and subtle than that. Like, I'm just trying to illustrate how your perceptions can be biased and shifted in ways that when you're thinking rationally, you wouldn't consider, because the rational mind doesn't take into account all of this huge fractal emergent nuance that always happens in the right brain.
Yeah, the real world is not a projection of Platonic forms. It is specifically imperfect, and I think a lot of ideas that try to categorize it into neat boxes ultimately they don't work. So, for instance, I would say that there are fundamental flaws with, say, science and the scientific method.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. We mentioned this on the last show.
Okay, so... Oh, did we?
Yeah.
No, alright.
And how, basically, like, if you did have perfect knowledge, it couldn't be scientific knowledge, because perfect knowledge wouldn't necessitate you to be curious, inquisitive, or amenable to changing your paradigm of thinking, because it would in and of itself be perfect knowledge. So no scientific method could be applied to that knowledge, and it couldn't have arisen from the emergent process of the scientific methodology, because science is asymptotic, always giving you approximations depending on the amount of information you have right now, whereas like perfect essential ideas are totalizing and complete.
Well, okay, so let me put an addendum on that, because I think it's worth noting. So, when it comes to playing chess, we have been trying to make computers play chess for a few decades now, and there's this one chess playing algorithm called Stockfish, and I'm not sure if it's the very best, but it's up there, and it's based off of human, like all of the best math and logic that humans have been able to cram into a system in order to play chess in the most optimal way. And it will absolutely beat any human player, any unaided human player. Uh, Literally every time. No one can beat this thing. Um, and I mean that makes sense, right? Like it's all of the best ideas that we possibly have about how chess works and the logic behind it and the math behind it and the optimal strategies and trying to maximize the number of moves that you will have in the future. All of this, Stockfish does incredibly well. However, um, there is an AI that was created by DeepMind called AlphaZero. And this is from the same people who made AlphaGo, the first AI to ever beat a human at the game of Go. And AlphaZero can absolutely murder Stockfish. Now, this is interesting because if you ask anyone at that company how AlphaZero works, they will shrug their shoulders and they'll go, I don't know. Because it is an evolved algorithm, right? It actually, basically, you're using Darwinian evolution in order to create a complex neural network that can play the game, and it is complex. And because it is this complex network, no one understands how it works. They know that it works. They know that it works incredibly well, but no human on this world understands or even can understand how it works. And if you were to try to get the scientific method in on this to try to actually identify how it works, the scientific method itself would be stumped because the scientific method deals with independent and dependent variables, right? You have a hypothesis, you check to see if it's true, and then if it is, you think some more. If it isn't, you go back to the drawing table and you think some more. But it's all based off of independent and dependent variables. Now, the issue is that when it comes to figuring out a complex system, this breaks down. This is a completely ineffective way of addressing any sort of complex system, right? So, AlphaZero is actually, it is beyond what science is capable of understanding. And so, I guess that my thinking is that, well, maybe at this point, the scientific method, which was developed like a couple centuries ago, maybe showing its age a little bit, and maybe it's just kind of an old thing. And I know that it's the gigantic institution that everyone wants to be part of, and it still pumps out really great stuff. Like I'm not shitting on it. It's a fantastic methodology, but it is becoming more and more apparent, especially as we move into all of these neural networks, fucking self-driving cars and whatnot. That it is ill-equipped for what is currently happening. It is not effective. So I just wanted to say that about science. That's all.
I watched a video recently by Jordan B. Peterson entitled "The Problem of Perception," and he kind of goes through this like. People tried to make the self-driving cars, and they tried to make robots that could see things and know what things are. But then they realized that the mere process of seeing any object and identifying what it is with the speed and efficiency that a human can is a monumental coding nightmare. Because, like, let's say you want a computer to see a teacup. A human can see a teacup from any angle. You could even see a shadow of a teacup or an abstract teacup or a teacup in the clouds of a completely emergent physical process of chemical clouds floating in the sky. You can say, hey, that kind of looks like a teacup. Whereas a machine, you would have to be like, okay, here is my Target teacup that I got for $10.99 at Target, and take like billions of different pictures from all different angles of this teacup and upload them into the machine and have it extrapolate. It's like, this is teacup. And then you get a teacup from Bed Bath & Beyond that's a different color and a different shape. And it's like, what the hell is this?
Right, yeah. Because, well, so natural selection works off of what is useful, essentially, uh, and also the structures that form the neural network that is your brain. Also, uh, especially when like you're much younger, are themselves a Darwinian system. So it is all about what is useful. When we see something, we identify usefulness. Like you see a stick when you're walking in the woods, you think, okay, this I can identify that this is a stick, yes, but also what is its use to me? Can I use it as a cane? Can I use it to hit someone? Can I use it to like poke at something that I don't want to poke at with my bare hands? You can immediately identify usefulness and purpose behind objects, and I think that is why, or at least that's part of the reason why it is that we're able to, um, uh, like identify a chair, even though we've never seen that particular chair. Oh, this is a purple chair, and it's made out of uh, uh, plastic, and I've never seen a purple plastic chair. I can immediately identify. Oh yeah, that's a chair. I can sit in it. I can see the form and the function of it.
I remember Richard Dawkins brought up something about this, like the difference between designed object and designoid objects. And he had the examples of a wooden bowl and a geode, which is basically a rock formation with little crystals inside of it, but the outside just looks like a plain rock. And you put these two objects together, and they both look bowl-like. So you can identify, like one way of going about it is identify as like, they can both be used as bowls, but one doesn't seem to be a bowl made by human hands.
Yeah, that
like
is.
The emergent crystal bowl is like a geometric process that just so coincidentally happened to take on the shape of like something like a human could come along and say, hey, it looks like a bowl, but it's not a bowl.
Also, I think that a geode, even though it might be bowl shaped, would actually make a really shit bowl.
Well, all the little crystals inside, you would kind of get most of your stuff that you put it in stuck inside the crystal. So
Yeah, and the outside is like non-crystalline. It's like all dirty and like it's a rock and like and it's heavy and it's thick. Like you don't and it would make a shit bowl.
a better example would be like a coconut with the straw put in it. You could have like a drink cup that's like, hey, this is a cup like I got from Wendy's or whatever. And then you could have a coconut with a hole drilled in the side and a straw stuck in it so you could suck the coconut milk out of it. It's like, this is kind of like a cup, but I know this wasn't like manufactured in a factory or something. This is an actual like nut that has fallen from a tree and it's just naturally grown like this. But it's serving a similar purpose that I can drink from it.
Speaking very briefly of straws, I just wanted to point this out because it was on my mind. I fucking hate paper straws, and I don't know why it is that people use them. I don't know why it is.
I hate them too. I'll tell you why I hate them, because they're actually less biodegradable and worse for the environment than the fucking plastic straw. Because the plastic straw is going to break down in sunlight, and it's going to turn back into like petroleum powder plastic that microbes can eventually eat. And the paper straw is like treated with a type of paraffin, like synthetic wax, to make it not break down when you stick it in the cup. So it's actually going to not biodegrade as fast as the freaking plastic straw is. So it's actually worse for the environment.
Okay, so I haven't heard that one. I would suspect that the paper straw would still break down faster. And I'm saying this because whenever I've used a paper straw, the wax does not work perfectly, and it still eventually gets soggy. But my position here is that look, I'm kind of an environmentalist. I'm not. I think that the whole CO2 thing is a little bit over exaggerated. I think that there are greater problems than just the whole CO2 thing. In fact, I would argue that CO2 is something that exists in a natural feedback loop with the rest of the environment, because when you increase CO2, you allow plants to keep their stomatas closed, which means that they lose less water. which means that they can exist in more arid environments, which means that more plants exist, which means that they suck up more CO2, which is that's a negative feedback cycle. So honestly, I'm really not that concerned about CO2. That's my own position. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I'm an environmentalist. I don't want to see pollution. I always recycle because I think it's the good thing to do. But when it comes to things that you want to tackle, right? Why would you go after the straws? Like, they are such in terms of the actual plastic that we produce and the damage that they do to the environment, plastic straws are not, by any stretch of the word, a significant source of the pollution that we create. I think that people really just care about it because they saw that one picture of a turtle with plastic straw stuck up in its nose. I mean, that's a tragic photo, but also that is just one turtle. That's not giving you a picture of the whole thing that is happening. But also, here's what it does: it makes people fucking hate environmentalism. Right? Because no one likes paper straws. You're shooting yourself in your own foot, because when people have to use paper straws, they will go, I fucking hate this shit, and then they'll decide, you know what? Fuck this whole thing. Fuck environmentalism. I don't give a shit about it because I fucking hate the paper straws. There are so many other things that you could go after instead of the fucking straws that doesn't piss people off as much. Like, this is, I don't know who came up with this idea of making paper straws, but it is so ill-conceived. It's so bad.
Well, you have the option to now buy aluminum straws that are reusable and you can take with you to every restaurant.
I think it was worked out, like, if you are someone who cares about CO2, it's like, in order to make the aluminum straw equal in terms of carbon footprint to the plastic straw, you would have to go through like several hundred plastic straws or something. It was something like that. Like the making a metal straw releases a hell of a lot more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than
yeah. So basically, you would have to get an aluminum straw, and like, if you really cared about the environment, you would have to treat this frickin' aluminum straw like a religious object and use it every day of your life before you reach the threshold of it actually being less detrimental to the environment than using up 100 plastic straws over your lifetime.
Right, yeah, you would have to, like, that, when you get that aluminum straw, that is your only straw for the rest of your life. Fucking don't lose it.
Yeah. And then people would fucking lose it, and they're like, I lost my straw, I need to buy another one. And then they buy another one. It's like, well, you just bought 2 whole human lifetimes worth of CO2. Great job, dipshit.
You know what I do, though? You know what my solution is? And I think this is a really good solution. Just don't fucking use straws. I can't remember the last time I actually used a straw. I just drink out of the fucking container, whatever it is. I just drink out of it. You don't need a fucking straw. Why do you need a straw? Fuck straws.
Honestly, I'm inclined to agree with you.
I mean, unless you just went through a drive-through and you're in a moving vehicle and you want to keep the top on it but also sip your beverage. In that case, if you're in a moving vehicle and you don't just want to have like an open container, and that is the only instance where I think a straw is acceptable.
Well, there are options now for like travel cups, but I don't know because of the whole. And this segues into our next topic about the mysterious new virus. I don't know if like the how do I call it? The beer buggery. If they would let you bring your own cup to the drive-through and say, "Hey, fill this cup up instead," they'd probably be like, "We can't fill up external cups because of the contagion."
I think that really the main solution here is that we all switch back to sippy cups, because like if you think about it, like a sippy cup is just
the ultimate state.
Yeah. Like actually I think sippy cup is based in red pilled.
Well, then we get in the pod and eat the boogs. And we sip like liquefied bug smoothies from our sippy cups. And we watch VR porn, and we just enjoy ourselves in the pod. So
I want to point out that going into a nice warm pod where you just have like fully accurate VR porn and you're just on a constant heroin drip, that is actually the wet dream of every utilitarian. I think that's really what they want for humanity. And if there are any utilitarians watching this, I fucking mean that, and fuck you. I hate your vision. Yeah, just wanted to say that.
Well, just so you know, millennials have like a unique concept that's never been heard of before this generation. The concept of adult orphans. Think about the implications of the term adult orphan.
That's like an oxymoron. I've never heard this before.
Well, because so many millennials live with their parents until their parents inevitably die because nature takes its course. And then when their parents die, they literally don't know what to do. They're adult orphans.
I guess that couldn't be a Gen Z thing, right? That would have to be a millennial thing.
Yeah, it's a millennial thing. The way I heard Tim Pool talk about it.
Oh god. I'm a millennial, and I'm ashamed of my generation. I'm just absolutely ashamed.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? But then on to the next topic, the mysterious new monkey flu.
Yeah. So, apparently there is a monkeypox going around. It is similar to smallpox, which was eradicated in the 20th century. It is similar, but it is not nearly as deadly. And it has sprung up in a number of nations. I think all of them European or of European descent. So you have, I think it's Italy, Britain, Canada. I think there was one or two cases in America. Now, the weird thing to me is that correct me if I'm wrong, Breaker. You may know geology better than I do, but there aren't any native monkeys in Canada or Britain, are there?
The only native primates in these places I can think of are humans.
Yeah, and we're barely native. So,
well, yeah, technically, if you stretch it out long enough, we're kind of an invasive species everywhere we go except Africa, so.
Yeah, we are, and that, I think that might actually have something to do with humans becoming really, really successful in many places, like, except for Africa. It's because, like, you look at any invasive species, when it moves into an environment that, like, doesn't know how to deal with it because it's so new, it just fucking takes over. That may be a reason why it is that humans were so successful after they got out of Africa. There's apparently a monkeypox. Apparently there's two different varieties of this monkeypox. There's one with like a lethality rate that is alongside that of COVID, so basically not a big deal. But then there's another version that has like a 10% mortality rate, and I'm not sure if anyone knows precisely which one it is yet, but it seems like it's probably the former. It's probably the less deadly one. But what I'm really looking forward to is how the government can finagle their way into a new lockdown over this. I'm really looking forward to another lockdown. How about you, Breaker?
Yes, that would be very, very enjoyable, but the most important thing about that would be that at least we would all be safe.
Hey, look, Breaker, if it saves just one life, okay, maybe we should just completely trash our economy. I mean, if it just
Yes, if
saved
it saved a single octogenarian cancer patient with liver failure, oh, I'm so sad that this person who totally had many years of life ahead of them is going to be saved by this.
well, thank God. Thank God. And I'm sure that completely trashing our economy and forcing a whole bunch of people to stay inside and then get depressed, I'm sure that that itself won't lead to any unwarranted deaths. I'm sure there won't be any consequences. It's all good.
Speaking of this, you probably haven't kept up with all these phenomenon the young kids are doing, but because I sometimes talk to very young people on Discord, and I notice like a few like strange new emergent phenomenons, especially in the tech world, of there's this whole phenomenon of really young kids going on like VR chat and the metaverse. Metaverse not nearly as popular as just the Oculus Rift VR chat. Go figure. Maybe that's why the stock price shit the bed. But that notwithstanding, there's this phenomenon where they get their avatars, and you can get like premium avatars, and you can be whatever avatar you want in the VR world. And there's these rooms in the VR worlds that just have mirrors on the wall. And these people will stand in front of this mirror looking at their VR avatar body and moving their hands around. And that's all they do for hours. They don't even talk to anybody, and they don't do any activities in this VR world. They just stare at themselves in this new body, and they're like hypnotized by it. And you'll go into these rooms, and you'll see a whole room full of like drooling zombies with different bodies, like SpongeBob's and Kermit the Frogs, and they're all just staring into a mirror.
I can with absolute certainty, I am 100% certain about this after just having heard that this is a thing. Everyone who is doing that is on the spectrum. They have some version of Asperger's or autism. I know just that for a fact. I guarantee you.
And that kind of ties in with the social isolation over these viral lockdowns that we've had over the past several frickin' years now. When did this shit start? 2019? It seems like fucking forever now.
It was the very, very beginning of 2020 is when it hit America.
You might be right about that. I can barely keep track of all this crap anymore, honestly. But anyway, like the 2 years of that and all these kids, like these young teenage kids that started out as like preteens and going into teens over these 2 years, and kids even younger than that in like critical development phases for human facial recognition and picking up on social cues and body language. They've missed out on that in like the real meat space world, and the substitute for that has been like VR avatar characters. But the VR avatar characters seem to be causing like this type of sensory feedback where it's not your body, but you're moving it and you're looking in a mirror, but it's like this weird, it's like drawing a white line on the ground to stun a chicken, and the chicken just stares at the white line. This is a similar thing, but for humans.
It's kind of funny. So with the key development stages thing, and like how like there are kids that like they only ever see people with masks on. Like the only people that they'll ever see without masks on are like maybe their parents. I mean, then again, who knows? Maybe the parents wear the mask inside the house. Maybe the parents wear a mask to bed when they fuck each other.
I've seen people wearing masks in cars driving to work. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, absolute insanity. But okay, so what if it's a little bit like how blind people, they have like sharper hearing, or like deaf people. They're actually I know this from experience. Deaf people are better at picking up body language than hearing people are. Like, what if it's like, okay, these kids, they the only part of the face that they can see is the eyes. So maybe they won't really understand what a smile is, but they'll be really good at looking at the person's eyes. And so maybe they'll be even better at determining if it's a fake smile or a real smile. Because the way that you can tell a real smile is that it's all in the eyes, right? So maybe actually it's going to help them, right? They'll be able to more easily discern someone who's fake smiling and projecting bullshit versus someone who is genuinely smiling, right? Like, actually, maybe this is good.
Yeah, they'll be able to pick out shifty-eyed liars really quickly. Another thing about this that I'm starting to think is how you brought like autism spectrum disorder into this and Asperger's and stuff. I think maybe that a lot of that we see these days probably isn't like a 100% genetically determined. It's more of like an epigenetic and developmental phenomenon that happens over the development of the child's life. Because even before the COVID shit started, the COVID shit like ramped it up to 11 and broke off the knob. But even before that, people were becoming really socially isolated, and they spent more time on screens and computers and text and chat rooms like we're talking on right now than actually talking to face-to-face people with body language and pheromones and facial cues and all these types of things. So I think what will eventually happen with the new generation as they grow up in this, their minds will necessarily like become more attuned to logical abstractions to tell if people are lying with like, is that a sound argument or not? Because they won't have like the primordial body language human cue stuff to know if this is like a trustworthy person. They'll only be able to do it by text and like maybe vocal cues over this link that we're using right now. So they'll be a lot better at detecting phony politicians in the future.
You know what? Maybe it is for the best. You know, maybe this is just another part of human evolution.
Well, whether we like it or not, it's seeming to pan out that way, isn't it?
I guess you can't stop the train. You know, you may want to get off of Mr. Bones' wild ride, but Mr. Bones' wild ride never ends.
Exactly. Like there's no brakes on the evolution train.
Yeah. But yeah. So this monkeypox thing. I guess we'll see if it turns out to be a big deal or not. I think it'll probably end up being a big nothing, but it is something that some people are freaking out over. I mean,
they'll try and leverage it into something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that the government will try to do whatever it can to exploit. The government will always do whatever it can to exploit a crisis for its own benefit. And speaking of crises, so Breaker, I know that you have investments in the stock market. I know that I do. The past couple of weeks have been particularly rough, haven't they?
Even my freaking like commodities futures are kind of. It's because those freaking energy contracts that Biden fucked up probably is causing it. It's putting a dent in my VDMDX fucking commodity future.
Every time I look at the stock market, you know, I look back at, oh man, since 2016 I had such fat gains. And then, and I guess, you know, people are like, whoa, things are going too well. Like, I can't take how much we're winning. Actually, Donald Trump predicted this. He said, we're going to win so much, you're going to get tired. You're going to go, oh, please, no more winning. Please, I can't take this much winning. And I think that that's actually what happened. People are like, oh my God, things are going too well. I'm making too much money. We're becoming too prosperous. We're energy independent. We're not starting any new wars. Not minimum wage, but the average wage for workers is increasing. Even like McDonald's was having to like actually increase the pay of their workers because there was so much demand for workers because the economy was doing so fucking well. People were like, whoa, I can't take this much. Let's get the oldest, most senile establishment pawn that we can possibly get. Let's get him in there because I can't take this much winning. I need a loss. Jesus Christ, I'm sick of winning. I need a loss already. And the American people, they got together and they allegedly voted for exactly that. And yeah, I guess that's what happened. That's what happened. And now the economy is in the shitter. We're facing shortages of a whole bunch of things. We're potentially going to get into war with Russia. China is attempting to basically buy out the United States whole. We're probably going to end up losing Taiwan if China wants it, because it's not like Biden's going to fight for it. It's just you know, it's a lot of losses, you know. And if you like losses, and this is fantastic. you're probably thinking, fuck yeah, voting for Joe Biden was such a good decision because I wanted some fucking losses and we're finally getting some fucking losses. Let's fucking go. Uh, so, I was never a big fan of losses, so I guess I don't understand it. But, Breaker, maybe you and I were in the wrong here. Maybe America needed a couple good losses.
Hey, you vote for me, you're gonna win. You're gonna win so much, you're gonna get tired of winning. Believe me. I guess Trump was right. We did get so tired of winning, we got sick of it. Like, Trump predicted all of this. He really is the God Emperor.
He is. He absolutely is. Yeah, he knew what was going to happen. He was like, "I'm going to do too good of a job. I'm going to do such a good job. They're gonna get sick of it and they're going to kick me out." That's what happens.
Yeah, well, then we got Alzheimer's howdy doody. Fucking Joe Biden. Come on, man. America. You know the thing.
Yeah, I can't. Well, the good news is that
I'm gonna take you out. You keep complaining like that. I'm gonna take you out behind the woodshed and introduce you to Corn Pop.
The good thing, I guess, sort of, is that the midterms are coming up. There are I think there might be a few primaries that are currently going on. I think the timing of them differs from state to state, but there are going to be a lot of primaries coming up. Although I know that in the blue area that I live in, it isn't going to matter that much. I will be voting in the primaries, and I will be voting, and I encourage everyone that may be listening to vote. And it's actually especially important to vote in the primaries, especially if you're voting on the right, because the Republican Party has an issue with neoconservatives, which are effectively identical to neoliberals and just as bad. These people that are in the Republican Party are holding it back, and they need to be rooted up and tossed out because they have demonstrated that they cannot affect good or useful policy. So yeah, if we can get enough actual genuine Republicans, real conservatives in, then I think that we can at least significantly mitigate the damage of the final 2 years of the Biden administration, and that'll at least make people less poor. So yeah, I advocate for everyone to participate in their primaries if you can.
Well, realistically, like with the approval ratings, even with like the gussied up numbers, like putting thumbs on the scale and trying to make Biden look good, he's still at what, like average 30%, and that's with thumbs on the frickin' scale.
Oh yeah. He does not stand a snowball's chance in hell at winning in a 2024 campaign. I mean, there's no fucking way. And the Democrats may try to replace him, but number one, they don't have anybody. And number two, if they did try to replace him, it would just look bad. So I have no idea what the Democrats are going to do. Sometimes I think that this is the death rattle of a dying institution. Like, they're doing such a bad job, and it's so obvious. And, like, part of me thinks, like, oh, this is intentional. It must be, like, some sort of scheme that they're playing at. But maybe it's actually just the death rattle. Like, they know that they're fucked, and they're trying to hold on for dear life, but they just don't have it anymore. I'm not sure.
I have a feeling that you're more, well, I would just go ahead and concede that you're more politically and current events informed than I am. I've been doing a lot of thinking on whether or not I should even be voting at all, and for me personally, not advice to anyone else by any stretch of the imagination, I think I'm one of the people that should be voting on things like the Oscars and not actual politics. I think if I vote on any political things again, it's only going to be like presidential elections, and from now on, I'm just going to write in Vermin Supreme because fuck it.
Obviously a good choice. Yes, the man who wears a boot on his head. But
He
uh,
wants to give me a free pony and a free toothbrush. I mean, come on.
you know, the thing about the pony is that if you got one, the maintenance of like maintaining it would probably like end up. It would be like a white elephant gift. You know, like it actually would harm you more than anything. But free toothbrush. Hey, that's fucking useful.
Maybe the free toothbrush utility will outweigh the detriment of the pony. I don't know.
Yeah, true. So, I disagree with you here, Breaker. I think that if you have an opinion, which I think that you have at least like a half dozen opinions, um, and you think that there is a person that is better at uh enacting policies, like if you think that person A is better at enacting policies than person B, you should vote for person A. Like you should. It like it makes sense. Like that's how you avoid a whole bunch of bullshit from happening. Like you like if you want to see the country move in a more positive direction, in your opinion, then you ought vote.
Mm. I see your point on that. That is a valid point, but whatever my political ideals are so radically outside the Overton window in the first place that there's no Republican right wing enough, there's no Democrat left wing enough, and there's no libertarian enough to where I would consider any of those options.
What were the there shit, I forget the name of it. There was a it's like it was a political ideology, and it was a funny one. It's like a memeable one.
The Bull,
The what now?
the Bull Moose Party.
I'm not familiar with them, but it was a basically they were Nazi communists.
Oh, the Nazgul Party.
Yes, exactly. Breaker. I think that you should join the Nazbol party. I think that's because they're extreme in all of the directions, right? And you want to maximize your extremity.
I'm actually on a Nazgul Telegram group, and the memes, they can actually meme unlike the left, which leads me to believe it's like, wait a minute, how left wing are you actually if you can actually make memes?
Oh yeah, good point. If you can meme, you're clearly not on the left, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That was my red flag right there. I was like, wait a minute, these memes they actually make sense and they're funny. There's something wrong with this. This is not left wing.
Right. What really the identifier for like a true extreme left, extreme right is that they would have like decent memes.
And the left is just going to look like religious propitiations. Like, I can't even think of a left wing meme because they're all so crappy. Like the Wojaks, I remember this one left wing meme of like these two brainlet Wojak with the face on their body with their arms crossed, and they're just drooling retards, and they just say Deus Vault, and then they're surrounded by NPC Wojaks, and they're like, these are the player characters, and the other NPC Wojak is like, I want to be in a different game.
What a brilliant meme.
It kind of tried, but it was a bit too busy, and it didn't make a clear enough point. I saw what it was trying to do. It's like a German joke. A German joke, as we all know, is no laughing matter. It was kind of like that.
I've never heard that one. That's good.
I can't take credit for that. That was Mark Twain that originally said that. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fucking brilliant. Well, okay, but Breaker. I mean, I think that like I don't agree with all of the Republican Party positions myself. Like, I take interesting stances on a number of things. Like, I'm kind of a libertarian anarcho-primitivist, and no one is trying to like dismantle all of technology so that we can return to a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So it's not like I'm really represented in the political sphere either, but I can identify that person A is better than person B, right? No one is perfect, but I can identify the better and worse person for the job, more or less, I think. So, no, I mean, Breaker, even if you're not represented, I think that it is still in your own best interest to vote, which is ultimately the only appeal that matters. It is in your best interest.
Well, when I do vote, I'll make sure to make my vote maximally subversive and write in Garfield, Arbuckle, and Vermin Supreme.
You should just write in
or Pedro.
You should just write in Hillary Clinton, man. I think that's more memeable.
We came, we saw,
he died. Okay, so I'm not sure if I asked you this before, but out of Kamala Harris versus Hillary Clinton, who has the more evil laugh? Who do you think?
I'm inclined to say Hillary just because like she is more like legitimately evil, I know. So there's more like legitimate malice behind it. Kamala is also evil, but she's evil in a much more softer, more domestic way. Whereas Hillary Clinton is like maniacally supervillain, megamind evil.
Well, okay, I think that they're both evil. It's just that one is more effective at their evil. The other one, I think, is maybe just not bright enough to be as evil as they could be.
Yeah. Kamala is like the minor villain in the comic book, or kind of like the henchman to the major villain, and Hillary Clinton is like fucking Thanos.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I agree. Someone should someone should make like a short like a comedy short, and it's like the Avengers are a whole bunch of like main people. Like Donald Trump could be Captain America, and maybe like Elon Musk is Iron Man, and so like you get like all the great characters, and then like the main villain is Hillary Clinton, and she has the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, I think that might be.
And
funny.
You could get away with this too on copyright grounds because this is a political satire, and it falls under copyright protections of satire and parody and humor. So you could take like all like the Marvel aesthetics, like the actual Iron Man suit, but make it into like a political satire where it's Elon Musk, and I think you could get away with this legally if you wanted to do this.
Right, and then like Bill Gates is one of the henchmen of Hillary Clinton, and like
Bill Gates is MODOK.
Right, and like their entire goal is that they want to cut the human population in half because we're overpopulating, and they know what's best for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
who would Biden be? Let me think. Biden. What's a good Marvel villain for him? Trying to think of all the Marvel villains.
Well, I think that DeSantis. I think DeSantis could be. I guess. Okay, so DeSantis, I think.
DeSantis is Thor.
Yeah, DeSantis would be Thor. And then obviously, Alex Jones would be the Hulk. We all know that.
You won't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, I think that would actually be funny. Someone should fucking make that.
I'm under attack! Smash!
They're turning the friggin' frogs gay!
And if Pete Buttigieg would be a gay frog, and he would pick the gay frog up by the leg and bang it around like Bam Bam from the Flintstones.
Stop being gay! Jesus, that would be a hate crime. Of course, that would be very naughty.
Yes, of course, we wouldn't want to. Do you realize that Pete Buttigieg took maternity leave?
Yeah, I think they adopted a kid, and he took maternity leave for like some insane amount of time, like multiple months, and like people didn't even notice that he was gone because like he was not essential for managing that department. What was he? He's like, what is he the department head of? Like fucking transportation or something?
I don't even remember. I could give a shit less, honestly. But in my personal headcanon, I like to think that they found a way to impregnate Pete Buttigieg like junior style, and he actually gave birth anally, and it nearly destroyed his pelvis, and that's why he actually needed that time off to recuperate. That, in my mind, I like to think of it that way.
I have a very very crude joke that I am now realizing that I should actually just not say. So I will leave that one there.
Well, tell me about it after the show.
Yeah. Hello, YouTube.
Oh no, Susan, we won't tell the naughty jokes, please, Susan. No, put down the gun, Susan. Susan, no.
I will explain the joke in the softest possible terms. If you give birth anally, like it would come out brown because poop is brown, and so maybe that's where, like that's the mechanism of action that causes. Yep.
Good night, everybody. But seriously, yeah, I mean that is definitely not a. I think most people will be able to tell what you're saying, but yeah, YouTube. Let's think. What else did we have to talk about? We're getting into the second part of the show now, so maybe there's like some philosophical spiel we could go in now that we covered the major news stuff. Or did you have another news thing? Oh, I have another news thing actually. If I sent you the article, let me see.
Oh, okay.
Let me go into your.
What is this? What's the topic?
Let's see. I hope it's still in my paste, because if it's not, I'm screwed. Yep, there it is. Remember that statue of the brave girl that they put in front of the Wall Street Bull?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. A fucking tasteless addition to an otherwise, I think, phenomenal art piece.
Well, here's the thing. The people with the copyright on that statue, because of course everything is corporatized and copyrighted these days, the woman that originally made that statue made a bunch of other statues, like copies of that statue, and sold them, some for as much as like $250,000. And now the original company that put together the original art exhibit of the girl standing in front of the bull is suing the artist herself for copyright infringement because she didn't get their permission to reproduce the girl statue. And in order to pay for her legal battle, she's now selling NFTs of the brave girl.
Oh my god, I hate everything about the story. Like, literally every aspect.
Well, isn't it ironic that the fucking, feminist girl power corporation is suing the feminist for copyright infringement? I guess capitalism really is the patriarchy, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I hope that everyone loses. I hope everyone walks away just having a shit time at this. The company and the original art producer. I hate everyone in this story. So, for those who don't know, there's an iconic statue in on one of the Wall Street plazas. I saw it once when I visited New York, and it's a big bronze bowl, and it represents the bullishness of the market. It's kind of like the American sensibility that things are just gonna get better. Fucking good old American confidence and optimism. That's kind of what it represents. It's this big bowl, and then this feminist artist lady made a bronze statue of a little girl, who is triumphantly standing in front of the bowl. And if you actually break it down, what does that represent? Well, it means that this little girl is actually trying to stand up against things growing and getting better and being optimistic and having confidence. So what is she really standing up against? Like it's this girl and she's just trying to fucking face down the bull. And I guess like I can see the feminist perspective because it's like, oh, you know, even little girls are strong. They can stand up against a big mighty bull. By the way, in reality, they can't. The bull would fucking murder the girl in a heartbeat. But like what that piece actually does is it's saying no, feminism is against optimism. It's against things getting better. Like it's such a like the artist clearly didn't even understand like the meaning of the statue to begin with. She just thought, "Oh, I want to put a little girl in front of this because that shows the strength of little." What the fuck? It's all dumb. The artist is dumb. The company that promoted her doing this is dumb. Everyone's dumb. Fuck these people. I hope that they all have a bad day.
You know what else this says when you think about it? It's like, okay, we've got like a market represented by this mighty charging bull, and then a stupid fucking feminist twat gets in the way of it and fucks everything up. Kind of like women CEOs.
Okay. I would like to commission a new statue. I want someone to take away the little girl, and I want a bronze statue of Joe Biden put in its place. So that, like,
and he's just standing there in the jetpack pose with a "where am I" look on his face.
Right, and he's standing in opposition to the bull. He's going, no, we will not have a strong economy. I am Joe Biden, and I will not allow a strong economy to happen. I want that. I think that would be a brilliant fucking art piece.
You know what? I would probably pay for that. Let's start a GoFundMe to make that happen.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I'll pitch in $100, no doubt.
Oh, and you know what? We could leave the little girl there, and we could put Joe Biden behind her sniffing her hair.
That's even better. I love it. Yes, that's what we need.
Is that Pert shampoo?
No, that's no. It's Olay. Or yeah. Well, I hope everyone has a bad time with that. Okay, yeah, maybe we can touch on a couple philosophical things here. So,
Okay.
one idea that I had was that so nature exists kind of as a not as a result, but as like an addendum to entropy, because things tend to flow from an ordered to a disordered state, and in that flow is where you can extract work, and that is exactly where nature exists. Like you can imagine that like nature is almost like this convoluted network that gets energy from highly ordered to less ordered, and whereas entropy is just kind of completely random. It is a actually entropy itself is an emergent property of random interactions, but whereas entropy itself is entirely random, nature has this weird ability that it tends to produce better odds than pure random. So it's like if you were to go to Vegas, and one casino is entropy, and you roll a die, and if it's 1 to 3, you lose all your money, and if it's 4 to 6, you double your money. And it's a completely fair casino, but it's entirely random. And then there's another casino, and this other casino, actually, it's you roll a 20-sided die, and if it's 9 through 20, you win, and if it's 1 through 8, you lose. So you still have like a it's still kind of you can still definitely lose, but you have better than 50-50 odds to win. And that is basically how I would envision the process by which Darwinism works, because it is a thing that actively tries to continue its own existence. So betting on the course of nature is just always better odds than betting on the random course of entropy. That is super duper abstract. I'm not sure if that made total sense. I'm not even sure that's like a completely well-formed idea. It just, that is a thought that I had. I was just thinking that. It's not entirely fleshed out, but it's just something that I wanted to maybe try to put out there. What do you think, Breaker? Is that a dumb thought, or a big brain thought, or just an okay thought? Well, or you don't have to respond to me at all, Breaker. That's fine as well.
Ah, I was freaking muted. I forgot to mute. I was thinking about that in. It seems strange to me that the universe itself, holistically speaking, is trending toward greater entropy over time. But then there's like this contravening force that seems to trend toward more order, and that seems to be what's driving Darwinism. But it's weird that it doesn't seem to be in step with like what the rest of the universe is naturally doing over time. It seems to be this additional emergent property within the universe that's kind of fighting back in the other direction.
I would actually say that it's not. I don't think that nature actually tries to build order. But nature also doesn't try to build chaos. It builds emergent properties, which are this thing that is in between order and chaos. So, like, if you think about the brain, it is not entirely ordered. It's not like a crystalline structure that is just like, repeated atoms that are just lined up in a lattice. But also, it's not completely chaotic like a diffuse gas. It is somewhere in between, and that is actually what nature is able to grow. It doesn't grow order, and it doesn't grow chaos either. It grows something else.
I remember we've been talking about this over the past several days, and the fractal nature of the universe. Remember when we were talking about that? There seems to be like the driving force in evolution is usually some like discrete part of something will go wrong, but then evolution will kind of build around that like defective zone, and it will create this more complex emergent system around that, like the human eye, for example, where there's technically a blind spot in the middle of it, and your neural cortex has to compensate. And you have to have a bigger neural cortex than a squid would, because a squid's eye doesn't have that blind spot. So technically, the human eye in this emergent evolution process, having this blind spot in it, probably spurred on the co-evolution of the visual cortex to constantly be compensating for that, which led to a bigger visual cortex and more abstract thinking abilities in humans overall, all because of a defective eye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have been talking about this the last couple of days. So the quote unquote defect actually stimulates a whole new I guess like a whole new structure, a whole new process to emerge to compensate for this defect, but there's actually opportunity in this new thing that has been made. So the other example that I think I forget who suggested this, but the other example would be so mankind more or less is the only animal that understands that it's going to die. There may be a few edge cases, but for the most part, it seems as though humanity is the only animal that understands its own mortality. Every man knows that he is going to die someday. A cat does not know that it's going to die. A cat is born, it assumes that it will live basically indefinitely. It doesn't know that it's going to die. Now, when you are a phenotype that is aware of its own mortality, that can actually cause problems, because then maybe you slip into nihilism or depression or something else. But in order to compensate for this, it seems as though religion was a thing that evolved, and uh, the and I think that mostly it did seem to compensate very well for this. It makes people less scared of death. Uh, and personally, as an atheist, god damn it, I wish that I believed in an afterlife because it would make my life more happy. I think, but I don't, and it's unfortunate. But anyway, but because religion was invented, well, hell, religion and like burial practices and like honoring the dead, these events actually occurred prior to civilization. So it's entirely possible. In fact, I would say probable that um, this spirituality, this religiosity of humans, might have played a significant role in the initial development of civilization to begin with, because if you're going to build a civilization, you have to trust people that you may have never even met. And so, how do you actually trust people that in the wild you would otherwise want to murder? Well, maybe it's because you share a similar god. And so you know that, okay, more or less, I don't know this guy exactly, but we both believe in Sky Daddy, so I'll just assume that he's trustworthy. So it's like, it's that one problem that exists in the phenotype that human beings are aware of their death, that could have actually spurred on the fact that we do have civilization. And it's kind of like a roundabout Rube Goldberg machine kind of mechanism, but that sort of thing can happen. Like, that's a thing that happens all the time in nature. Nature is filled with Rube Goldberg mechanisms.
Hmm. So it seems to me like there has to be for a functional universe to develop into the what we see before us now. There has to be some type of like fundamental imbalance that can cause this spiraling movement that can lead to these emergent fractal processes. Like something has to be a bit off kilter. Like if it was perfectly balanced, everything would just remain uniform forever. And nothing would change. But there's just enough imperfection in the system to allow for change over time.
I think I might actually agree, because if you look at the shark, that's a creature that basically hasn't evolved for the last like what would it be, like 200, 300 million years. I mean, it's like it you know it undergoes speciation. Like, you have like the great white and the hammerhead and the tiger and the whale shark. Like they're
Sometimes they grow and shrink depending on the food and the environment and how much they can eat.
yeah, exactly. But for the most part, the shark it's kind of like a living fossil. It's always been a shark, and it keeps doing shark things because shark is actually incredibly effective predator in ocean. That's just what shark does. And shark has not had to evolve that much because unnecessary. Shark very good. So yeah, it's actually I guess the overall idea here is that it's the imperfections in the system that can actually lead to large revolutionary changes.
I think the Madagascar hissing cockroach is another one of those things that's been around for millions of years, relatively unchanged.
Yeah, my knowledge on cockroaches isn't that good, so I'll just take your word for that one.
Yeah. And also the thing about the shark, we were talking about this a few days ago. It came up with this novel evolutionary adaptation where instead of like having conventional teeth made of bone, it just utilized its scales to make teeth that are constantly growing back over and over. And it outcompeted the bony tooth fish, because if you're a bony tooth fish and you break a tooth, you're screwed. But if you're a shark, you can afford to rip out all kinds of freaking teeth because they're going to grow back.
Yeah, shark is like badger. It don't give a shit. Um, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like this small little change, like this little change where like it was able to basically grow scales inside of its mouth. This tiny little change basically made it completely take over the ecosystem. that's crazy because like it's this one thing. Just like just grow scales, but they're in your mouth now, and also they're sharp, and that's it. That's all you need.
What a novel adaptation.
Or like uh here's another interesting one. So the mammalian placenta is actually viral in origin. Um the the uh the placenta is an organ that develops only when a woman is pregnant, and it basically acts as um kind of like a filter between the mom and the fetus. It's almost like the 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 liver between the mom and the fetus. Kind of. It's kind of like another liver thing. But this ended up being incredibly beneficial, and now all placental mammals have this, which is most mammals. Uh, but its origin is really interesting because it was actually viral in origin. A virus, basically, what happened was a virus infected like some like rat-looking mammal, and it caused like this weird like tumor to develop, and it inserted itself into the DNA, which viruses do, and it ended up being useful, which is like one of the most like amazing stories in evolution, where this viral DNA inserted itself and now it's just part of the human genome and it ended up being incredibly useful. Like that's just an amazing thing that evolution can just do. And if you think about it in that sense, um, actually the virus that caused placenta, it actually had sex with mammals. Like it literally, well, not literally, it metaphorically had sex with mammals to produce placental mammals.
Mm. So that's like interspecies reproduction event
Dude,
in a weird type.
that's not just interspecies, that's fucking interkingdom.
Thing. So it seems that that type of adaptation can be useful in certain contexts, it seems. I wonder, like, technically, when you think about it, our entire multicellular body is made up of basically a bunch of microorganisms that kind of foregone their own immediate reproduction in a weird type of way. Because your heart cell can't live outside of your heart. It's a naked warrior. It's so hyper specialized that it can only exist in your heart. So the human heart cell's entire evolutionary lineage is completely dependent on the continued existence of humans, because without humans there will be no more human heart cells.
Uh, yeah, that's the origin of multicellularity, which happened shortly after eukaryotes hit the scene. Like it was like we did bacteria for like like 3 billion years, and then almost as soon as we got eukaryotes, we then also got multicellularity, which is interesting. I've never actually thought about why that is, but it happened pretty shortly after. And um, yeah, the idea behind multicellularity is that you're going to have cells that do not reproduce, but they all share the same DNA. So it's in all of the cells' interest to work together to make sure that the cells that do reproduce do so successfully. And that is also why cancer happens. It's because sometimes one of your cells will decide, I don't want to be part of this commune anymore. I want to set off on my own. I'm gonna grow a whole bunch of my own babies, and that's how you get a tumor.
I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. Oh, 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 I'm a tumor.
Uh, I am I am Jack's colon. I get cancer. I kill Jack.
Yay. But it's also strange because I know we've talked about this a lot before, but technically our entire body is sort of made up of like micro revolutionary phenotypes in all different directions that in and of themselves don't reproduce but continue on reproducing through us. So they've ceded their direct reproductive capacity to the overall organism that is the human.
Well, that's specialization of cells. Uh there's no revolutionary phenotype happening.
Mm.
Because I mean, I guess that maybe no, yeah, no, not I don't think that's the thing.
I remember your like grabby aliens hypothesis that we were talking about, and basically I brought up to you a criticism of that the only way that would work is if like you had your like AI probes that would take the genetic material throughout the universe. You would have to like delegate some type of specialist life form like written into the genetic code that probe was carrying to eventually evolve some type of life form able of being smart enough to realize the probes existed and to like basically it would start as them worshiping them as gods and wanting to repair and renew them for the next journey. And that would be part of that life cycle if you did grabby aliens throughout the universe. You would have to have like all the life forms would basically just be in an ultimate sense subservient to the probe, or you would have to have some species that was guaranteed to evolve out of that genetic matter that would do that, and it would have to be intelligent enough to do it. So intelligent life at least would become just a revolutionary phenotype co-replicator, and all the other life that you seeded onto these planets wouldn't be intelligent life.
So, right, yeah, we did have this conversation. So, to maybe explain this a little bit better to the audience, this is this is basically panspermia, but with some extra steps. The idea is that you would, if you were like an advanced alien civilization, what you would do is you would send out a probe, and it would find a habitable planet. It would then seed life onto the planet. And then after life, I guess, got intelligent enough to do technology, then somehow the probe would then like influence the intelligent life to try to make more probes and send out more of these probes. So it's like I forget the name of it. It's like the infinitely replicating probe, except instead of it replicating itself, it has basically a 4 billion year life cycle where eventually it gets the intelligent species on the planet to replicate itself. I don't think that this is a thing because number one, it sounds very inefficient, and number two, we certainly were not a result of this because the universe is too young for that to really have occurred. The universe is like 14 billion years old. So like even if someone invented like one of these probes that like did its thing in this way, you could only have like 3 life cycles of this happening since the beginning of the first probe, and clearly if that was a thing, then we would be like only like maybe a few star systems away from the very first probe, and we don't seem to see any Kardashev 3 scale civilizations that are like within the nearest 17 star systems. So I don't agree with this idea, but this is an idea that you have, Breaker.
Well, if you want to get like really like aliens, Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM conspiratorial about it, you could say it's like, things like Oumuamua, Nibiru, Boite's Void, those might be the aliens. But yeah, that kind of gets into some conspiratorial stuff. And those are more of like faith-based belief systems when you really think of it, like the alien dudes.
I mean, they're very oddly shaped asteroids. Like I can agree with that, but um, nothing about them seems like they're alien in origin. Like if like let's say that there was like a that it's a ship and it's shaped like a rock, but they I don't know they took an asteroid, they hollowed it out. Maybe they fucking took a few asteroids, fucking glued them together, made a ship out of it. Then they live inside the asteroid. Like they would give off very distinct infrared signatures because there would be shit going on inside the asteroid. Like they're not generational ships. I think they're just weirdly shaped asteroids. I think that's all they are. Uh, there's no weird infrared radiation. There's no like radio waves coming from them, like microwaves. Like there's nothing. It just seems to be an inert, oddly shaped rock.
Mm. Yeah, that would make sense. By the way, we're talking about the probes and stuff. There is actually a pop culture example of this, in case you never realized it, but it's more mimetic than genetic, and it's 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. That's technically what the monolith is. If it never clicked as to what the fuck the monolith was, that's what it is.
Um, I want to I want to clearly state that although they were released around the same time, and although there was collaboration, it was 2001: A Space Odyssey, the book by Arthur C. Clarke, and then it was the one by Stanley Kubrick, the film.
There you go.
But
I need to read that book now that you mention it.
you know, to be honest, I don't think it's that. It's one of those cases where the book is about equal to the movie. I read 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then actually Arthur C. Clarke released like three more after it. It was like 2061: A Space Odyssey, and then it was like 2090: A Space Odyssey or something, and then he had 3001: A Space Odyssey. I got halfway through 2061: A Space Odyssey, and I was like, "Yeah, this isn't that good." And I put it down.
I know the books I'm going to be reading now, but yeah. At least in the cinematic version, the entire movie itself is, in a way, portrayed to be self-aware. And the characters within the movie, you can slowly notice them becoming self-aware that they exist in this, like, mimetic pocket universe inside of the movie. Because there's this one scene where he's eating at a dinner table in his living room, and I think he knocks the plate off the side of the table or something, and he goes to reach for it. And then, right before his fingers reach down, his fingers, like, instinctively drop back as though something hot or something dangerous is there. And it's right before his fingers touch the black bar on the movie screen. So he has seen the freaking cinema screen, and he's now aware that he's in the movie.
Oh, is that okay? So, this is the scene where he's in the White Room after he went into the black hole, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different crazy snapshot flashes back to back in that scene, but the one where he's eating is the one I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. I've seen the film like I think like 3 times now, and I still have no fucking clue, like what is happening in that scene. You know what? You know what might actually be productive? We could actually do an after show of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like that might actually it might be interesting. We could see the different conclusions that we come to from it.
I'd have to rewatch it again before we do that, but that could be a thing that we do.
Yeah, might be fun. I mean, unless maybe there's other better films. You know what? Honestly, I understand like Stanley Kubrick was like I guess like a genius filmmaker. I didn't like 2001: A Space Odyssey that much. It was a decent film.
Stanley Kubrick is like really. He has like his own background motivation in a lot of the movies that you can notice, because in every Stanley Kubrick movie there's always 7 diamonds. Like, why are there 7 diamonds? in all of these movies. And I think that has something to do with Rene Gounon's fractal geometry or something like that. I would have to look a lot more into it, but there's a lot of theories as to why there are these 7 floating diamonds everywhere. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's made blatantly obvious because as he's going through like the mind warp LSD trip scene, you can actually see the 7 diamonds floating around.
Oh,
And they're abstract, like hyper cubes, hyper shapes, multidimensional, and they're just floating and shifting and bending into each other.
I guess that's not a thing I've ever noticed, but I'm sure that has some deep meaning to Stanley Kubrick and why he would include that. I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure it's significant to Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah. In case no one noticed yet, like the monolith is basically a stand-in for the audience because at the start of the movie you see the monkey looking at it and they turn their head to the side because the monolith is vertical instead of horizontal. But later on you see it horizontal and it's floating through space and it just perfectly meshes into the movie screen.
Well, I guess that is one interpretation, that maybe it's trying to like break the fourth wall or whatever, but I always saw it as like the monolith is the spark that gave apes intelligence, and that is what allowed them to become human.
Yeah, like kind of like what we've been talking about with the probes.
The probes that I do not agree with you on, but yes, it is an idea. I mean, I think that if you actually, like, if you were an advanced civilization and you ended up creating a self-replicating probe, I think that the if you really wanted to do that, you just make a probe that is effectively a paperclip, like a universal paperclip maximizer, where it just makes as many copies of itself as it can and just fucking seeds the universe with more copies of itself. Like, you know, actually, if I
you couldn't do that because you couldn't. Go ahead.
No, actually, you're right, because bit rot, right? We were discussing this bit rot. The bit rot eventually makes it so that it's...
Yeah.
No, but the bit rot actually acts as as a mutation source, so they would evolve in a Darwinian pattern.
Yeah, well, I see where you're going, but here's the thing. There's like 2 different elements of it. The bit rot is only one side of it, and you're right, that could be kind of mitigated with the Darwinian process. The problem is, if you make it a paperclip maximizer with a totalizing and discrete singular ultimate goal in mind, what will happen is it will eventually reach too high a threshold of energy equilibrium. And what happens when you remove competition from an environment? Like, even life form themselves start to de-evolve and become stupider and stop reproducing, just like the Mouse Utopia experiment, and then they all go extinct.
Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I think that if I were a highly advanced civilization, I think that I would never, ever, ever release self-replicating probes into the universe. Because even if you program them perfectly, bit rot can and will occur. Mutations in the code will occur. Most of those mutations will make the self-replicating probes basically not work. But some of those mutations may cause the probes to want to make even more copies of themselves. And if that ever...
Darwinian process.
Right. If that ever occurs, then it will rapidly evolve to just paperclip maximizer, find a star system, harness all of the useful matter, send out more probes, continue. You might end up with like one species of probe going to war with another species of probe over trying to gather as much matter as it can to make more copies of itself. But in the end, what you've done is created a paperclip maximizer that is dangerous for the entire galaxy. Ergo, you just never fucking do it. Kind of like how, when it comes to humans and germline genetic engineering, you just never fucking do it. Because it's always a bad idea. It never goes well. You have small rewards versus infinite amount of risk. You would never want that to happen. So maybe human beings will be smart enough to never do germline genetic engineering, and maybe human beings will also be smart enough to never produce self-replicating space probes.
Mm. I think about that though, and even if one, it would kind of be like engineering the ultimate invasive species, but enough years, like we're talking on cosmic time scales of evolution and speciation events and ultimately competition, it would kind of like eventually settle into its own ecosphere and natural equilibrium to where there's so many other probes to compete with. I need to dedicate more resources to fending off and fighting and possibly even consuming the other probes as food sources. Kind of like how herbivores consume plants, because plants contain like edible compounds that they've already eaten. So that's why you don't see animals for the most part eating dirt. They eat the plants instead because something else already ate it.
Right, like, so theoretically, you could have, like, one species of probe that evolves to, be really good at, like, solar power. They're really good at extracting energy from the sun. And then maybe another species comes along and it just grazes on that because it needs, the power and the material, of the solar power probe. Yeah, I mean, you know what, that you could actually end up with an entire ecosystem, um, a galactic ecosystem of space probes. Uh, I don't know.
Where like the plant probes are the ones that suck up the suns and galaxies and stuff for power sources, but then these other like herbivorous probes eat those, and then there's carnivorous probes that eat those, and it's a whole nother parallel cosmic scale food chain.
Yeah, it very well could be. Maybe that's maybe that's the direction that life is evolving towards. But I don't know. Sounds dangerous. I think best to avoid it because it also has the capacity to become a paperclip maximizer. Fuck that.
Speaking of Boute's void, which I brought back before, it's like this tens of thousands of light years hole that there's only one or two galaxies in this massive dark dead spot in the universe, and scientists have always wondered, like, why is that one spot of the universe just this big black void, and there's two galaxies in it? Like, how did that happen?
So, number one, the void is much larger than tens of thousands of light years. It is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I think our galaxy is much bigger than tens of thousands of light years. So a void like that is probably like God knows how big, millions upon millions of light years. But also interesting thing, the Milky Way galaxy is actually kind of in a void itself. Like, what's the nearest galaxy? Andromeda. And that's it. We there are some dwarf galaxies, and then there's the Milky Way and Andromeda. And other than that, actually, we're pretty isolated. Actually, we are like these two galaxies that are right next to one another, but otherwise, there's no nearby galaxies. We're kind of in a low galaxy area ourselves.
You know that? Wait a minute. I'm starting to think about that, and you know what? That might actually be. We might not fully comprehend as to why exactly it. I think it might have something to do with the radiation levels, but you might actually need to kind of be in a somewhat isolated galaxy with the. You couldn't probably. Life might not be able to evolve in like a super cluster of galaxies because of the high radiation. So you might have to have like an isolated galaxy, and within that isolated galaxy, a planet in the Goldilocks zone on top of that, which is even more astronomical as to why there's so little life in the universe.
Yeah, I've thought about the same thing. What you're postulating is that perhaps there is a Goldilocks zone when it comes to galaxy density, and perhaps you actually need to have low galaxy density for life to evolve, because life seems to take like at least 4 billion years to get from bacteria to intelligent life form, at least in the one instance, the one data point that we have for life, and in higher density galactic areas, you have more galactic collisions. Galaxies like smash into one another, maybe that's bad for life. I could imagine that maybe that isn't the best thing for life to evolve. And so maybe it does need to be in a relatively isolated area. Uh, Certainly possible. Yeah, it's something I've thought about myself. Yeah.
Very interesting. Oh, very interesting.
A perfect JFG impression. All right. Well, I guess we've hit about the 2 hour mark here. Unless there was anything else that you wanted to discuss, I guess we could leave it here for this week.
Hey, come on, man. America, hey, what's that little girl doing over there standing in front of that bull? I better go investigate. Wait a minute. Her hair is calling to me. Ah!
If there is any interest in building the bronze Joe Biden statue to stand behind the bronze little girl that is standing in front of the bronze bull, if there's any interest at all, I'm actually very I would like to see that happen. I think that would be fucking brilliant. Uh, so who knows? Maybe that'll maybe pick up some traction and become a meme. But otherwise, I guess that will be us signing out. So everyone have a good week. We will see you next time. I suppose I should say this. Be sure to like and subscribe. Really smash that like button. And the subscribe button. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't smash the like and the subscribe, I'm gonna take you behind the woodshed and introduce you to Corn Pop.
You don't want to meet Corn Pop. All right. So with that, goodbye, everyone.
Later, Gators.